Discovered, the incredible love story between a billionaire and his poor maid that changed everything. Grace stood in the vast, pristine kitchen of Jack Harrison's estate. The world outside raged with wind and rain, but inside, the soft glow of chandeliers cast an almost ethereal light across the marble countertops. She knew this life, one filled with luxury and privilege, was not hers. A single mother who worked tirelessly to put food on the table for her teenage daughter, Lily, Grace had always kept her head down, her dreams tucked away like dusty treasures. Yet here she was, cleaning windows in a mansion that could only be rivaled by fairy tales. As the storm outside intensified, loud crashes of thunder echoed through the corridors. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, leaving the manor cloaked in darkness. Grace's heart raced for a moment. She was used to the darkness, it had been her companion far too often. But Jack? He appeared to be struggling. The billionaire was a man of light and power, yet here, in the shadow of his own home, he seemed small and isolated. With a deep breath, Grace moved toward the sound of turmoil. She found Jack fumbling for flashlights, confusion mixing with frustration. "It's okay," she said softly, her voice steady in the chaos. "I've dealt with worse than a little darkness." As they pulled together candles and lanterns, the flickering flames illuminated not just their surroundings but also a budding connection between them. They shared stories of their pasts, her father's tales from military service and his privileged childhood filled with expectations. Laughter erupted like sunshine breaking through clouds, and for a moment, the lines of class blurred. Grace felt a warmth growing in her chest. It was more than just the laughter, it was the understanding blossoming between them. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But soon reality began to set in. As the storm subsided, so did the intimacy. Society's expectations loomed heavily. He, the billionaire, and she, the maid, couldn't possibly belong to the same world. Grace felt the weight of her world pressing down on her again. Just as quickly as those feelings ignited, fear snuffed them out. As days passed, Jack reached out, yet Grace withdrew. Confusion clouded his heart. What had changed so suddenly? Grace's silent retreat cut him deeper than the storm ever could, and he was left with nothing but questions. The townsfolk whispered, their eyes darting between the unlikely pair, tightening the noose of scrutiny. Jack was a man caught between two worlds: his family's cold expectations and the warmth he found in the laughter of a maid. The more he thought of Grace, the tighter the grip of disdain from his world grew. He stood at the brink, ready to declare something profound but uncertain if he could muster the courage. As he faced the community, he felt the weight of their judgment pressing down, their gazes unyielding. He took a deep breath, a single word echoing in his mind: love. Would he be able to bridge the divide that society had built, or would it all slip away before he could find Grace? The winds of change rustled through Maplewood, stirring up the fear and hope within each heart. Would Jack find her before it was too late, or would the love that dared to bloom be buried beneath the ruins of fear? The answer lay on the cusp, heartbeats quickening with the promise of something greater. Grace spent her days cleaning and her nights worrying. The mansion was a labyrinth of polished floors and sumptuous fabrics, but each time she wiped a surface or tidied a room, her mind drifted to Jack. He was a mystery wrapped in privilege, and the connection they once forged felt like a vivid dream fading into reality. The laughter they shared echoed in her ears, mixing with the whispers of doubt that crept in as surely as sunlight streamed through her window each morning. Despite her best efforts to keep her distance, Jack would not let her go that easily. He appeared at odd moments, a glimpse of something deeper behind his perfect facade. A stray gaze over the dinner table or a thoughtless brush of hands while trying to reach for the same serving bowl. Each interaction sent shivers down her spine, igniting sparks of warmth that fought against the coldness building in her heart. Then came the day everything changed. It was a Friday, and the air held a tension that spoke of the storm clouds brewing not in the sky, but within Grace's heart. She stood by the kitchen window, wiping the glass to a shine when she heard the unmistakable sound of Jack's footsteps approaching. Her breath hitched. He was coming. "Grace," he said, voice steady, though she could hear the crackle of unsaid words lurking beneath, "can we talk?" She hesitated, the apprehension wrapping around her like a thick blanket. "Is there something you need?" she replied, turning to face him, trying to sound nonchalant. His eyes held hers, unwavering. "I need to understand what is going on, what happened after that night. I thought we had something," but now he faltered, his voice filled with raw emotion that made her heart race, both hopeful and terrified at the same time. Grace glanced away, her internal conflict raging. Yes, they shared something special, something unique, but the world around them insisted that difference mattered. Isn't that what she had been taught? "It's complicated, Jack. I know it is." The way he reached for her hand made her pulse race. "But I can't pretend I haven't thought about you. About us." The shock of his hand against hers sent electric shocks coursing through her. "Jack, no. This isn't right. You're a billionaire, and I'm just your maid." The words threatened to choke her, capturing her fears in their grip. But Jack leaned closer, unwavering. "You're not just anything to me, Grace. You're incredible. I can no longer hide how I feel. All the noise has to stop. I want to fight whatever is trying to keep us apart." Tears burned her eyes as she felt the depth of his sincerity. Maybe, just maybe, they could carve out a different path. But lurking in the corners of her mind stood a wall built from judgment, expectation, and prejudice, both her own and that of the world outside. "Jack, I want to believe you," she stammered, "but I'm scared. What will they think?" "Let them think what they want," he said, frustration lacing his tone. "This is our lives, Grace. I can't let them dictate my happiness." As the storm outside begun to stir again, lightning flashed, illuminating the tension between them. Grace felt her heart racing, caught between the chance for something real and the weight of what was expected. What was the right thing to do? Could she step into the unknown, or would she retreat behind the protective walls she had built around herself? The atmosphere crackled like the brewing thunder, and with the weight of his gaze upon her, the decision felt monumental. As memories of shared laughter flickered in her mind, she took a breath, contemplating the leap she could take and what it might mean. Would she risk everything for a chance at happiness? With her heart pounding, she opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, silence danced between them, pregnant with possibility. And in that precious moment, the world outside raged on, unaware of the storm brewing within them, waiting to see which way they would each choose to turn. The tension hung heavy in the air, a tumultuous storm echoing the chaos within Grace. She felt torn apart, the forces of doubt and hope battling within her like the lightning flashing outside the window. Jack stood close, his gaze unwavering, waiting for her to find the words that seemed so desperately elusive. "Grace," he began gently, but the tremor in his voice revealed how vulnerable they both felt. A raw honesty shimmered between them. It was as if the world outside had faded away, leaving just the two of them in this charged moment. She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his gaze pressing on her like a palpable force. Could she trust him? Could she dive into this unexplored territory that promised both exhilaration and doom? Her mind raced, filled with memories of their laughter, their secret exchanges, and the undeniable chemistry that had sparked between them. But questions loomed larger. What would it mean for her? For him? For the lives they were accustomed to living? "I want to be brave," she finally said, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "But I've spent so long being careful, I don't know how to let that go." Jack took a step closer, his hand reaching out for hers again. You don't have to be brave all at once. Just take it one step at a time with me. His touch was warm, guiding her through the storm of uncertainty. Grace felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he was right, perhaps they could move forward together, charting a course that honored both their hearts. It was a tantalizing thought, but the specter of disapproval trailed behind them. Family expectations and societal standards loomed large in her mind. Jack, what about your family? She asked, her heart sinking at the thought. They'll never accept this. You know that. He shook his head, determination hardening his features. I want to let them dictate my happiness. I want to be with you, Grace. No one else. His words were a lifeline, pulling her toward a future that felt both terrifying and thrilling. But doubt crept back in. What if they failed? What if their love wasn't strong enough to withstand the pressure? She imagined the disapproving glances at family gatherings, the whispered judgments from friends. Grace felt the tightening grip of responsibility. What would this mean for her career? For her self-worth? Jack, I can't be the cause of any conflict in your life. You deserve peace. You're meant for so much more than me, she said, her voice breaking slightly. His brow furrowed in frustration, but his eyes held a tenderness that brought a stutter to her heart. You don't give yourself enough credit. You're worth fighting for. I won't let anything tear us apart. As thunder rumbled in the distance, Grace felt a glimmer of resolve. Perhaps there was a path for them if only they could carve it out together. But a shaky thought crept back in, would she be able to face the backlash? For a brief moment, she thought of the life at the mansion, the comfort of routine. But then, she envisioned the dull ache of resentment if she turned away from the possibility of happiness with Jack. The storm roaring outside mirrored her tumultuous thoughts. Tell me what to do, she whispered, her voice a mixture of dread and hope. All of a sudden, she felt small, vulnerable yet strangely alive. Jack leaned in closer, the tension between them palpable. Just say you'll try. That you'll let me in. As she looked deep into his eyes, the walls she once built began to shake. Would she finally let herself feel, fully and unconditionally? Could she choose love over fear? With a breath that steadied her racing heart, Grace hesitated before answering. Suddenly, a crack of thunder erupted outside as if mirroring her resistance and longing. As rain began to pour down in sheets, washing the world outside in a veil of gray, Grace knew that her answer, whatever it would be, would change everything. But just at that moment, the mansion's grand front door flew open, and an unexpected visitor stepped inside, interrupting the poignant silence. Jack! There you are. We need to talk. The words hung heavy in the air, slicing through the electric moment they had created. Grace felt her resolve slip, and she pulled away, her heart racing with renewed fear. What did this mean? Would they be robbed of their moment? And as Jack turned, confusion etched on his face, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was about to take an unexpected turn. Jack's gaze flickered toward the doorway, tension immediately constricting the air as a tall figure stepped into the dim light. It was Oliver, his father's right-hand man, always impeccably dressed but now looking disheveled, like he had just dashed through the storm. The urgency in his voice sent a cold shiver down Grace's spine. Oliver, Jack said, his tone suddenly clipped, a stark contrast to the warmth he'd shared with Grace moments before. Sorry to interrupt, but this is important, Oliver insisted, his eyes darting between Jack and Grace before settling on Jack again. Your father needs you. Now. The storm outside intensified, a wailing wind pressing against the mansion as if it shared her reluctance to let go of this moment. Grace's heart sank, and she stepped back, feeling an overwhelming surge of vulnerability. Oliver's presence pierced through the bubble of hope she had begun to build, reminding her of the gravity of Jack's world. What could be so urgent? Jack demanded, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. Can't it wait? No, It can't, Oliver shot back, his voice clipped with authority. It's about the investment deal. They're threatening to pull out. Your father needs to make an immediate decision, and you know how he hates to be stressed. Grace watched Jack's expression warp from frustration to concern as he processed the weight of Oliver's words. The warmth in the room felt snuffed out, leaving only the chill of reality creeping in. She had known that Jack's obligations to his family would always linger, but witnessing it up close made the stakes painfully clear. Fine, Jack snapped, running a hand through his hair. I'll be down in a minute. Oliver nodded sharply, casting one last critical glance at Grace before leaving them alone again. The door clicked shut with a finality that echoed in the heavy silence that followed. Grace felt her heart pound in her chest, each thud infused with a cocktail of anxiety and frustration. She could sense Jack's internal battle brewing beneath his composed demeanor. This was not what she wanted: an interruption, a distraction pulling him back to a world that threatened to engulf him. Jack, she started, but the weight of her emotions pressed against her throat, words lost somewhere between hope and despair. I'm sorry, he said, stepping closer once more, but the distance from before had returned. His warmth felt diminished, his previous promise now shrouded in responsibility. I wish I could stay. I want to be here, with you. Can we talk more when I get back? The way he said "when" made her heart tremor with anticipation, but uncertainty clawed at her thoughts. What if this is just a way for you to keep things normal? She asked, a hint of pleading in her voice. What if your father refuses to let you go after this? Jack looked deeply into her eyes, as if trying to read the fate of their hearts through the storm raging within her. I'll fight for you, Grace. I promise. No matter what happens, I'll find a way. Tears threatened to spill over, but she held them back, wishing she could just believe him entirely. I want to trust you, she whispered, longing to reach out, to close the growing chasm before them. I really do. But just then, another thunderclap rumbled, a violent reminder that time was slipping away, and so were the moments that had begun to bloom between them. I have to go, he said, regret heavy in his words. Jack, she started, but he was already turning away, each step toward the door a step away from the fragile connection they had just begun to fortify. He opened the door, and the storm howled as if echoing their turmoil. Grace's heart raced with a mix of desperation and regret, each second feeling like an eternity. Grace, he turned briefly at the threshold, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Please, just wait for me. And with that, he disappeared into the darkness, leaving her alone, the weight of uncertainty crashing down around her. Could she truly hold on, or were they too far apart to bridge the distance created by the choices they had to make? As she stood there, rain beating angrily against the window, she realized this was no longer just about her feelings for Jack. It was about courage, hers and his, and the relentless storm sweeping through both their lives. With the echoes of Jack's promises resonating in her heart, she made the decision to find clarity. But how would she confront what lay ahead? That was the question that lingered in the air, heavy and unsettled. Grace stood frozen, the storm's howling wind forming a haunting backdrop to her turmoil. The warmth of Jack's presence felt like a distant memory, whisked away by the urgency of obligations he could not escape. She wrapped her arms around herself, desperate to contain the flood of emotions threatening to overflow. Their connection had felt electric, yet she now stood in the silence of the room, grappling with the weight of uncertainty. Jack's words echoed in her mind, each one tipping the scale between hope and doubt. Promises were easy to make but harder to keep, especially in a world as demanding as his. She looked out the window, the rain streaking down like her unspilled tears. Somewhere amongst the chaos beyond those glass panes, Jack was wrestling with decisions more significant than their fleeting moments together. Would he come back? Would he find a way to break free from the chains of his family's expectations? With a shaky breath, Grace pulled herself from her thoughts. She had never been the type to wait helplessly, and she didn't want to start now. She needed answers that might change everything. She grabbed her coat and headed toward the hall. Every step felt like a personal rebellion against the confines of both the mansion and her fear. She had always felt invisible in this grand place, the walls echoing stories of people far wealthier and more powerful than she would ever be. But today, she refused to succumb to that feeling. Today, she would be seen. As she descended the stairs, her heart raced. The hall was dimly lit, the sounds of the storm still raging outside muted in the maze of the mansion's corridors. Grace's mind whipped through her options. Would she confront Jack's father? Try to reach out to Jack through Oliver? Before she could follow any of those paths, she noticed a door partially ajar at the end of the hallway. It was often closed, reserved for the rare gathering of the family's closest advisors. Curiosity tugged at her, pushing her toward the door despite the very real possibility of discovery. She slipped inside, her breath quickening as she took in the small, elegant room filled with dark wood and rich fabrics. It was a sanctuary from the chaos outside, yet the air was thick with tension. Papers were strewn across a large desk, evidence of frantic discussions that had occurred within these walls. What caught her attention next was the faint sound of muted voices. Intently, she crept closer, crouching to peek through the slightly open door to find Jack standing beside his father, sharp words slicing through the air between them. "You need to understand, son. If we lose this deal, it's not just money. It's trust. It's power." His father's voice was cold, relentless, each word an anchor pulling Jack deeper into a world that felt increasingly suffocating. "I'm not going to let you control my life, Dad," Jack shot back, his voice marked by tension. "I can't pretend anymore. I can't live like this." Fear raced through Grace. She felt like an intruder in a private battle she wasn't meant to witness. Torn, she considered slipping away, but a fierce determination surged within her. If Jack was standing up to his father, then he needed her support, even if it was just on the sidelines. But she knew she couldn't remain hidden forever. Would confronting Jack now help, or would it only draw him deeper into conflict? Suddenly, Jack's eyes darted toward the door as if sensing her presence. Grace's heart hammered in her chest. The moment of truth was here, and whether she stepped back into the shadows or into the light could change everything for both of them. With that knowledge anchoring her resolve, she stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. What Jack needed now was more than just quiet encouragement. He needed a partner willing to share the burden of choices that could shift the very foundation of their lives. Would she be able to stand with him when the storm was at its fiercest? Would this be the moment when her courage could turn the tide in their favor? "Grace." Jack's voice broke like glass, sharp and filled with confusion. She stepped fully into the room, her heart racing. Suddenly, the storm outside seemed distant, all that mattered was the crackling tension between them. "Jack, I couldn't just stand by," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but laden with determination. She locked eyes with him, searching for a flicker of hope amidst the storm brewing inside his heart. His father turned, surprise etched across his face. "What are you doing here?" There was annoyance in his tone, an unmistakable disappointment that sent an icy shiver down Grace's spine. But she couldn't let that deter her. "Not now. I came to talk to Jack." Her words felt bold, echoing off the wooden walls, as if to assert her presence in a realm that had always shunned her. "Stay out of this, Grace," Jack's father snapped, his voice dripping with authority. "You don't understand what's at stake." "I might not understand everything about your world," she replied, her voice steadier now, "but I know enough about love and what it means to fight for it." Jack's gaze softened, and for a moment, the air stilled. She could see him weighing his options, torn between loyalty to his family and honesty to his heart. "This is all so complicated," he finally said, his tone cracking. "I don't know if I can handle this without hurting anyone. Look at me, Jack." She took a small step closer, the space between them shrinking. "You're not alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. We can figure this out together. An unseen weight seemed to lift from Jack. His shoulders relaxed slightly, and the fierce determination she had just witnessed began to flicker in his eyes again. But then it was gone, replaced by the crushing reality of his father's expectations. Your father. Grace hesitated but pushed forward. He doesn't understand you. He sees what you could lose, not what you could gain by being true to yourself. You're speaking out of turn, girl, Jack's father interjected harshly, but Grace stood her ground, unyielding now. Maybe it's time someone spoke up. Maybe it's time Jack lets go of the burdens he never wanted to carry. Her voice grew stronger, tinged with a fierce righteousness. A smirk crossed the elder man's face, but it was edged with anger. And what would you know about burdens? You live in the shadows of this estate, hardly a trusted advisor. But I see Jack, she countered, her voice never wavering. I see his heart, his dreams. He deserves more than this legacy that confines him. Jack's father scoffed, shaking his head as if dismissing her entirely. You think you can change him? You think love can unbind those chains? Grace turned back to Jack, her heart racing. What do you think, Jack? Are you ready to let love guide your choices? The air was thick with tension, every breath feeling like it could trigger a storm of its own. Jack hesitated, his eyes darting between Grace and his father. He inhaled deeply, visibly wrestling with the tug-of-war in his heart. I don't want to live like this anymore, he finally said, voice low but fierce. I want to break free. The relief washing over Grace felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. But just as swiftly, uncertainty flickered back in his eyes. What will it cost, Jack? His father warned, a harshness rippling through his tone. I don't care. Jack burst out, fists clenched. I care about who I want to be, about who I want by my side. Grace felt a swell of hope but also fear. Could Jack truly turn away from his father's ambition and embrace the unknown for her? When Jack turned back to her, his expression was filled with raw conviction. I want you, Grace. I want this life. But if confronting my father means losing everything I've worked for, the weight of his words settled heavily around them, merging their fears with desires. I need you to choose, Jack, she urged, every word pulled from the depth of her urgency. Are you willing to fight? In that moment, the room buzzed with possibilities, and it felt as if the world beyond that closed door faded away. Yet, beneath all their determination, the chaos of the storm loomed large outside, just as uncertain as their futures. If love was indeed a storm, was either of them ready to brave it together? Would they finally take that leap, or would fear pull them back into darkness? The answer felt just within reach, but only Jack could decide what path they would take. The choice lay before him now, and she held her breath, waiting for him to claim it. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He could feel the weight of Grace's gaze, urging him to find the strength that had eluded him for so long. His father's presence felt suffocating, a dark cloud overshadowing the warmth that Grace brought into the room. I can't just throw everything away, Jack said, his voice trembling as he glanced at the man who had shaped his life. But I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not either. Then don't. Grace stepped closer, her voice ringing with a fierce conviction. Don't let him dictate who you are or what you want. That's not living. That's surviving. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, her heart aching for him. She had never seen Jack so vulnerable, so exposed. In this moment, he needed her more than ever, and she was willing to break down every wall he had built around himself. Jack's father scoffed, trying to re-establish control. You think this foolish girl can show you the light? You have responsibilities, Jack. A future that has been set for you. Are you really willing to throw it all away? But the passion in Jack's heart surged, pushing him to act. Maybe it's a future you want for me, but it's not mine. The words escaped him like a dam bursting, and he felt relief wash over him, but also a pang of fear for the storm that was brewing in his father. The older man's face reddened with rage. "You're a disappointment. After everything I've sacrificed for you." "Sacrifices made for what, exactly?" Jack countered, his chest heaving. "For a legacy that means nothing to me? For a life that isn't mine to live? I won't do it anymore." Grace felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, but the road ahead was far from clear. Jack's father towered over him, fury radiating from every pore. It was a moment that defined everything: love versus duty, heart versus legacy. "Jack! You're throwing everything away for a girl from the other side of town," his father shouted, disbelief punctuating his words. "Do you think anyone will respect your choice? People will laugh at you." "I've spent too long caring about what others think," Jack replied, his voice firm but shaking. "I want to live my life, not yours." Silence enveloped them as Jack's words hung in the air, a daring assertion in the face of authority. Grace watched his resolve taking shape, something stronger than fear beginning to crack the barriers he had always hidden behind. "What do we do now?" she whispered, a tremor threading her voice. She could see the tremor in his hands, the uncertainty of the wild unknown just within their reach. "I don't know," Jack admitted, the vulnerability returning to him. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to follow through. But I know I need you by my side. I want you with me." The atmosphere in the room shifted, love intertwining with trepidation. Jack's father glowered, displeased at his son's rebellion, and the tension was palpable. Grace stepped forward, determined to stand between them not just for Jack's sake, but for her own self-worth, almost daring his father to dismiss her. "Jack has strength," she said, her voice steady. "He has courage, and he'll need that now more than ever." "Enough!" Jack's father barked. "This is my house, I make the rules." Jack looked at her, breathing heavily. "I'm done letting others make the rules for me," but before he could finish, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, momentarily startling them. Jack's father glared at Grace, his face transformed by anger and disbelief. "What will it take for you to understand?" he said, his tone low and threatening. "You'll regret this." Grace stood tall, heart pounding. "What I regret is letting fear dictate my decisions. I refuse to hide anymore." In that moment, they could feel the storm raging outside, a living metaphor for the tempest within their lives. Choices hung in the air, electric with uncertainty. Would Jack have the courage to defy his father's expectations? As Jack opened his mouth to respond, an ominous crash of thunder reverberated through the estate, echoing their inner turmoil. Everything hung in the balance. Would this be the moment that defined Jack's future? Or would he retreat back into the comfort of what was expected? The air crackled with possibilities, and Grace held her breath, praying he would find the strength to fight for them both. Jack's heart raced as he stood facing his father, a whirlwind of emotions battling inside him. The words he needed to say danced on the tip of his tongue, but they felt heavier now that he was on the brink of confrontation. Grace remained steadfast by his side, shaking off the storm's chill that clung to them both like an impending shadow. "Jack, listen to your heart," Grace urged softly, her eyes unwavering. She could see the flickers of doubt in his expression, and she stepped forward, willing to absorb whatever backlash might come their way. "This is about you now, not him." In that charged moment, Jack made a decision. "You've always controlled me," he said, voice finding a pulse of confidence. "You taught me what it means to be obedient. But you never taught me how to find happiness." Each word was laced with years of suppression, finally spilling out like a river breaking free from a dam. "You dare speak to me like that?" his father thundered, rage twisting his features. The older man seemed larger than life, a titan of oppression. Yet Jack felt an unfamiliar warmth halo him, a blend of defiance and love that filled the cracks his father had created. "I'll speak however I want," Jack riposted, feeling the rush of adrenaline. I'm not going to allow you to box me in any longer. The silence deepened, each heartbeat echoing against the walls of their tense standoff. Jack's father shifted, his brow furrowing as anger battled confusion. The storm outside grew louder, a wild cacophony that mirrored the conflict brewing within the confines of the room. But what future do you want? Jack's father spat, searching for an opening, a way to pull his son back into the fold. What will it take for you to see reason? Jack thought of Grace, how her laughter and dreams had filled him with hope, how they had woven a tapestry of possibilities that painted a bright path ahead. I want a future where I'm free, he replied, the words carrying weight as if forged in that very moment of courage. A future where I can love who I want, where I define my own happiness, with grace. His father's face twisted in disbelief, a mix of rage and betrayal. This is not only about you. Do you even understand the consequences? You'll ruin everything. Everything or your everything? Jack countered, feeling a pulse of strength surging through him. I refuse to be the puppet of your dreams any longer. He stepped forward into the tense space that had kept them apart. Jack felt Grace's hand squeeze his, grounding him. It gave him faith to keep pushing. As the storm raged on outside, something inside of Jack began to settle. Go, his father spat, voice low and venomous, if you want to throw away everything I've built for you, then go. Walk away from privilege, from honor, from our family name. Jack swallowed hard, fear gnawing at the edges of his resolve. It would be a leap into the void, but with Grace by his side, perhaps he could finally learn to fly. I'm not walking away from anything, he declared, I'm walking toward a life I choose. The finality in his voice silenced the room, a calm moment zeroing in as the storm seemed to soften, the thunder retreating into the distance. Jack felt a fresh breath of possibility dance in the air around them, a hint of freedom. Grace's heart raced alongside his. Would this be their moment to step into a new world? She looked into Jack's eyes, fighting against fear's weight, knowing that whatever lay ahead would require both of them to be all in. Are you ready? Jack murmured softly, searching for a spark of shared resolution. With the storm now just a rumble, Grace nodded fiercely, her spirit aligned with his. As long as we're together, she whispered, I am ready for anything. In that space between breaths and crashing waves of uncertainty, they felt something monumental shift. Yet somewhere in the back of Jack's mind, shadows of doubt lingered. Did his father truly mean it when he had said there would be consequences? Just then, the door swung open abruptly, and a figure appeared in the doorway, drawing their attention and shifting the fragile dynamic once more. The moment felt charged, a new chapter unfurling, and in a voice familiar yet darkly tinted with unforeseen motives, they heard, Did I hear talk of walking away from everything? The tension rekindled, and uncertainty crashed back in, intertwining with the love that had emerged in the storm. The figure in the doorway stepped forward, the storm outside flickering the light in the room, casting shadows that twisted and turned like the emotions swirling among the three of them. It was Stan, Jack's older brother, and his brows were drawn together in a mixture of curiosity and disdain. A sly smile played at the corners of his mouth, suggesting he was loving the chaos unfolding before him. Really, brother? Stan continued, sauntering in as if he owned the room. You think you can just throw away our family's legacy? All the hard work Dad has done? And for what? Some fleeting idea of freedom? Jack felt anger bubble up inside him, raw and potent. This isn't just about Dad's legacy. This is about my life. Stan shrugged, his eyes glinting with a certain arrogance. Your life is going to cost you more than you think. You don't even know what you're getting yourself into. Grace stepped forward, unfurling her posture like a protective shield between Jack and his brother. What are you doing here, Stan? Can't you see this isn't about you? Her voice, steady and fierce, carried the weight of their dreams, their love. Stan's gaze flicked between them, bemusement mixing with calculation. Oh, but it is. You think I wouldn't enjoy the pleasure of watching this family fall apart? After all, you were always the favorite, Jack. The golden boy. Stop it. Jack shouted, feeling a rush of adrenaline. You don't understand. Let me prove you wrong, Stan interrupted, his tone dangerously light. You think you can just go out into the world and be happy? It's going to crush you. He stepped closer, pushing the air between them with palpable tension. You'll end up alone, just like Mom. The mention of their mother struck Jack like a bolt. His heart stuttered with his brother's cruelty. Memories rushed in, images of their mother's weary smile and the void left when she passed. The pain surged up, mixed with grief and anger, and Jack clenched his fists. Don't you dare bring her into this, Jack's voice trembled with barely contained rage. She wanted us to be happy. She would have wanted me to be free. A flicker of something deeper crossed Stan's face, but it was swallowed quickly, replaced by the usual bravado. And what will happen when you're broke and alone? I'm telling you, this won't end well. You'll see. When Dad cuts you off, you'll realize how hard life really is without your golden name. Jack felt a sudden chill, like a gust of wind cutting through him. The enormity of what Stan was hinting at loomed large. Would their father really go that far? A world without the safety net of family, of privilege, was he truly ready to leap into that unknown? Grace took a deeper breath as she steadied Jack, her presence a warm reassurance. Jack, think about this. We can create our own way. Together. The words sparked hope but also a flicker of doubt. Deep down, Jack knew he needed to stand firm. This isn't about what the family wants for me anymore, Stan. I will not let fear dictate my choices. Fear? Stan laughed bitterly. The real fear is the cost of your choices. You'll lose everything. Just remember, I warned you. He took one last gaze at them, disappointment lacing his features as if they were making a grave mistake, and then he turned on his heel, leaving them in the oppressive quiet. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, louder than the storm that still rumbled in the distance. Do you think he could be right? A pulse of worry tugged at Jack as uncertainty crept in. Grace took his hands, fingers intertwining in a silent promise. What we have is real. It's worth fighting for. But we have to be prepared for everything. Nervous energy buzzed around them, the silence now thick with weighty choices. What if Stan's warning held truth? What if their love couldn't withstand the storm ahead? The door creaked behind them, and they turned to see, standing in the shadows, a face masked in uncertainty but eyes glimmering with untold stories, and secrets. You may want to consider what happens next, it warned softly, deepening the chill that settled around them. Jack's breathing quickened. What new turn awaited them now? The room felt charged, and Jack's instinct screamed at him, he couldn't let this moment slip through his fingers. The flicker of a candle illuminated the figure slightly. It was Oliver, his father's loyal advisor. Jack had always trusted Oliver until now. What do you mean? Jack demanded, a tightness in his throat. What is going on? Your father is a powerful man, Oliver began carefully, his voice low and measured. He doesn't take disobedience lightly. He's making plans to ensure you stay within the lines he has drawn for you. Jack's chest tightened. What plans? He's aware of your interest in Grace, and he won't allow a distraction to interfere with his business dealings. There are implications that go far beyond just you and your feelings, Oliver insisted, urgency pouring from his words. You must tread carefully. If you choose to pursue this relationship, there will be consequences. He'll want to cut ties that bind you to your name. The weight of Oliver's words hung heavily in the air, wrapping around Jack like a suffocating blanket. The implications were chilling, but the desperation to finally break free felt intoxicating. Beside him, Grace's fingers tightened around his, her presence grounding him against the wave of fear. Oliver, Grace interjected, the strength ringing clear in her voice, Jack should not have to sacrifice his happiness for the sake of family legacy. That's not real love, and it's not freedom. Oliver's eyes softened slightly, admiration shining through the tension. I understand your resolve, but you must also understand your circumstances. The path ahead isn't easy, you'll face backlash, and you must be ready for it. Jack felt torn. A future with Grace fluttered bright and vibrant in his mind, but the shadow of his father loomed larger with every heartbeat. What if I am ready, Oliver? What if I finally want to fight for my own happiness? Oliver's expression shifted slightly. Then you need to prepare yourself for the fire. It will burn hotter than you can imagine. Jack locked eyes with Grace, her unwavering support and faith giving him strength. I'm ready, he said, the words firm and resolute. I won't let fear decide my life anymore. As the storm continued to rumble outside, a fresh wind swirled through the open door, carrying with it a gust of raw energy. The world felt alive with possibilities, and in that moment, everything shifted. Jack stepped forward, setting his resolve. I'm not just going to walk away from this, he declared, his voice fierce. I'm going to talk to my father. I'll lay it all on the line. His legacy ends if it means tying me to a life I never chose. I will fight for Grace, and I won't let anyone else's expectations weigh me down anymore. Grace's heart swelled within her, pride coursing through her veins. She knew how precarious this moment was. Jack was standing at the edge of a massive decision, a moment that could change everything for them. Are you sure? She asked softly, her eyes searching his, filled with wonder and concern. I am, he replied, squeezing her hand. But I want to do this together. We have to be united, shoulder to shoulder, through everything. Tears brimmed in Grace's eyes, shining brightly through uncertainty. Yes, together, she affirmed, the power of shared commitment igniting the room. Jack turned back to Oliver, determination blazing in his eyes. I'm going to find my father, he said, his tone final. As he walked toward the door, Grace's hand slipping from his, her heart raced not with fear but with exhilaration. They had finally taken the steps to forge their own fate. Just remember, Jack. Oliver called after him, urgency woven into his voice, sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones you must face within and with those you love. Do not forget what you hold dear. With a nod, Jack stepped out into the hallway, a whirlwind of motion. At that moment, he felt alive. The storm outside had settled to a dull roar, but inside him, the tempest of passion surged forth. Jack approached the grand staircase, his heart beat a steady drum as he descended. He would face his father, come what may. For too long, he had allowed others to dictate his path. Today, that ended. And then, in quiet moments between thoughts, he glimpsed visions of a future bursting with laughter, warmth, and above all, love. It was the kind of life that could only thrive on the foundation of truth and acceptance. Finally, he nodded to himself, heart brimming with confidence. This was the moment he had long anticipated, and he wouldn't shy away from it any longer. He stepped into a new world of courage, striving for the light that now beckoned on the other side. Jack! Grace's voice rose from behind him, filling him with light and hope. He paused to look back at her, and it was as if anchors of uncertainty had finally been pulled away. Together, they would face whatever storm awaited them. With a deep breath, he pushed forward, ready to embrace the unknown, each step a declaration of love, warmth, and wisdom, solidifying a bond that could not be broken. As Jack approached the room where his father waited, he felt the air thicken with tension and resolve. He was ready to claim his life. And there, with Grace waiting close behind him, he took his place at the precipice, prepared to leap into everything that awaited on the other side of fear. Dad, he called out, voice steady. The time had come for both of them to choose. Would they embrace the storm of their truth, or would they let it sweep them away? So here's the deal, my friends. If you enjoyed what you just read, this is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe now to catch all the exclusive, heartwarming stories that are coming up next. Leave a like immediately to support this channel and feed the algorithm to keep the magic alive. Don't hesitate for another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who might need a little inspiration in their lives. Your support means the world, and only true fans understand how important it is to rally around stories that touch our hearts. Let us build this community together.